All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Matthew Parisi. I'm a student at Bridgewater State University, and I'm here today to present to you a universal basic income, free money for free people, a problem and solution speech. So before I begin, I'd like to show you all my lovely family. They joined me here on a Google Hangouts call. We got over the issues of technology and are now ready to present. So the purpose of this speech and why I'm talking to you today is to propose a solution to poverty and the ever-growing wage gap in the United States. Now, the whole point of this is revolved around the saying that often gets tossed around, the house always wins, right? You may have heard this last time you lost a bunch of money at the craps table, but this principle seems to extend further than we all seem to have thought. According to the Borgen Project, the top 1% of individuals in the United States control 40% of the wealth as of 2017, and that was cited from the Borgen Project in 2018. Now, this fact is staggering, but why should you, the average individual, care? Well, on the off chance you fall into that upper 1% echelon of elite wealth, you may be looking for a means to an end for the unfair struggle plaguing most of the country. By listening to this speech, you'll discover a resolution that can help anybody not living in that upper tier of wealth and maybe drift closer to a median income and a lifestyle further from poverty. With this information in mind, I propose to you my thesis, which is that by providing a universal basic income to United States citizens, the United States poverty gap will close, and children will be raised to lead healthier lives with the opportunity for stay-at-home parents to be paid and take care of them properly. This speech will be organized in the following way: discussion of and the definition of poverty in America, its effects, and my proposed solution to the problem. Now, in order to implement a proper solution, we must first start by understanding the problem. Now, poverty in the United States, especially for children, is a brutal and oftentimes cyclical cycle that sees no end in sight and leaves families victim to disease and malnourishment. Poverty is defined in a few ways, mainly as income poverty on one end and absolute poverty on the other end, per the United States Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Income is relative to a country's defined monetary value. So relative income would be saying the poverty line is set at X amount of money, but this family makes Y amount of money. Therefore, they are either impoverished or impoverished, whereas absolute poverty is a universal ability to make ends meet. For example, if a family of 19 children makes $25,000 a year in the United States, that may not be regarded as income poverty, but in order to sustain food, water, and shelter for all of these people, that would be considered absolute poverty. So with this definition in mind, we can now start to look at the public health issues such as sanitation and access to doctors and how that becomes a luxury item in a lot of these areas in which people are living. According to Peter J. Hotez's article from 2008, the impoverished parts of America are susceptible to many diseases known as neglected infections of poverty. And these are essentially very prevalent diseases that exist all over the place, but yet seem to go untreated due to extenuating circumstances. Now, these extenuating circumstances generally are a lack of access to health care and a lack of knowledge amongst the medical population. Well, why is this an issue? Well, simply because America is ranked 36th out of 175 developed countries in rates of childhood poverty. That was once again cited from the Borgen Project in 2018. For a Big Five country in the United Nations to be ranking 36th in childhood poverty, which incorporates issues of health, nutrition, and education, that is simply an abomination. Now, disease is not the only issue that we face here, as this seems to have no end in sight. Now, per the National Center of Children in Poverty, parents lack funds to procure mind-stimulating and educational materials, and children lack the time or even the external push to find and use them. Now, this is according to, once again, the National Center of Children in Poverty in 2009. Now, with no educational development, the poverty cycle will perpetually continue as children are not encouraged to climb the slippery ladder out of the situations that they are raised in. Now, to take it all back, this essay has discussed the danger of poverty's prevalence, but now it is time to hear a true series of solutions. Now, the current welfare systems fail in many ways, so it's important that they are abolished to make way for a superior system. Now, the system is not helping people, and it's especially not helping mothers and children. Now, the way that it's not helping people, it's that it's so bare bones that people are encouraged to cheat the system. And when I say cheat the system, I mean apply for welfare of which they received and not document the income that they are making on the side. For example, if someone is a cashier at a store, they do not document the taxes or whatever that they make off of that, and also claim welfare. Now, there was a study conducted by the AFDC, which is the Aid to Families with Dependent Children. This was conducted in 1988, by the way. So they administered welfare checks, or the welfare equivalent of checks, to 25 mothers, and not a single one out of them was able to make ends meet to the point of absolute poverty. Not just income poverty, but absolute poverty, meaning that they weren't able to feed, clothe, furnish their house, or even provide heat inside of it altogether. And they were working additional jobs on the side, so they were cheating the system in essence. Now, this statement is a little bit outdated, as you may have heard. It's from 1988, but inflation has only worsened, and welfare has actually decreased and become more selective since this study was conducted. Now we move on to the crux of this speech and why I'm speaking to you today, the claim that the Universal Basic Income, or a UBI for short, is the best option for saving children and families in poverty. A UBI would allow working parents to reduce their working hours in order to spend time with children or help with household chores. An experimental UBI system is not foreign and has been conducted in many scenarios. Elder care and child care are always in these scenarios considered relevant roles and do not withhold stipends. So people that are staying at home to take care of the elderly or their children will receive money under this system. Now, with these monetary incentives being given to people to raise their children properly, this may end or put a great slow to the systemic poverty rate in a great majority of scenarios all over the country. Health can finally be prioritized, and sanitation can be improved to prevent these previously mentioned diseases from spreading as rapidly as they do now and afflicting so many people that otherwise could have it treated. Now, additionally, women are far less at risk of domestic violence and turning to prostitution to make ends meet, in addition to collecting a welfare check per the Basic Income Grant Coalition in 2014. That was a study that was cited. Now, a universal basic income will also close the poverty gap in the United States, just as many of the test trials have concluded. So there have been 2 test trials that I'm going to cite today, one conducted in Namibia and one conducted in the United States state of Alaska. So Namibia implemented a universal basic income trial and reduced household poverty rates from an initial 76% where they started all the way to 37% after 1 year. Now, this was also cited from the Basic Income Grant Coalition of 2014 as well. And Alaska currently implements a similar program to residents where they provide oil stipends. So if you're a permanent member living in the country, living in the state, they do provide some monetary prevalence to you, or monetary stipend to you. Now, Alaska originally had a lot of income inequality. It was ranked at 30 out of 50 states in the United States. Now, or at least as of when the study was conducted in 1987 by Thomas A. Husted, it's moved to 2. So there is little to no income equality, or at least a very small amount of income equality, thanks to this universal basic income system. And this happens within the United States and outside of the United States. This speech is brought about an important issue, but the proposed solutions are effective and complete as exemplified by numerous instances. So, in conclusion, from the above it is clear that the universal basic income must replace the current broken welfare system. We have seen the havoc that poverty can wreak in terms of disease and cyclical cycles affecting children's lives in the terms of healthcare and in education. But we can now also see that the universal basic income can offer salvation for these youths and parents afflicted respectively. We discussed what poverty is and how it's defined, how it's an illustration of the current how the illustration of the current welfare system is ineffective, and how the universal basic income can solve these problems and provide hope to those who are currently hopeless. Staggering poverty facts can be a thing of the past once we move forward to a better system of living under the universal basic income system. Thank you all for being present for my speech. You have all been a fantastic audience. And just to show you once again that the audience has not fallen asleep, here they are right here. So thank you very much for listening to my speech. And I do hope you enjoyed it. I must now conclude promptly.